We now move on to examining item 14 on the draft, which is on the draft plan for the use of the resources of the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund in 2024 and 2025. Our functions as a committee are laid down in Article 7 of the Convention. One of these functions is to propose to the General Assembly of State Parties a draft plan for the use of the resources of the fund. Since we are meeting here in the year before the next General Assembly, we need to examine the spending plan for the next 2 years as proposed by the Secretariat. This is an important subject for the committee and for the Convention as a whole, as many of the achievements by the committee and the Secretariat over the past 2 years have been made possible thanks to the Intangible Cultural Heritage Fund, to which the state parties contribute year after year. I'll give the floor to the ADG to present this item for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 2 documents pertain to item 14. Document 18.com-inf.14 is an information document about the past. It includes narrative and financial reports on the implementation of the fund from 1st January to 2022 until 30 June 2023, and contains the financial statement on the use of the fund issued by the Bureau of Strategic Planning. Document 18.com-14 is the main document and is made up of 2 main sections. The first part presents the recent trends in the implementation of the fund. It provides a detailed analysis of expenditure and incomes of the current biennium. The second part is about the future. It proposes a draft plan for the use of resources of the fund for the next biennium, 24-25, as well as the first 6 months of 26. To this end, a draft plan for the use of resources of the fund is annexed to the working document. With your permission, I will ask my colleague Fumiko to present more details concerning this item. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, ADG. Thank you, Chair. So, as the ADG outlined, I will organize the presentation into 2 parts. The first is about the recent trends. During the 41C5 biennium, the total income of the fund remains relatively unchanged, increasing only slightly by 2% compared to the previous biennium for the same period. Meanwhile, the expenditure rate increased, reaching 60% as at 30 June this year. In comparison, this rate was at 32% also as of 30 June 2021. So according to our latest forecast, the expenditure rate at the end of the biennium may reach as high as 82%, which would represent the highest expenditure rate of the fund since 2010 and will surpass in nominal terms the level of expenditure reached prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. It's worth noting that should the level of expenditure be maintained at such a high level, the total budget of the fund, and therefore the financial resources available, will diminish in the future. The evolution of expenditures of the fund can be seen on the graph shown on the screens. It is the orange line. It is interesting to see that the expenditures exceeded $5.2 million, whereas the compulsory assessed contributions for 2023 represent $3.6 million. Such increase in expenditure reflects the fact that state parties have been making a significantly higher use of international assistance mechanisms. It also shows that Secretariat was able to respond to the growing needs of the state parties and to advance in many areas that are important for the life of the Convention, as presented to this committee under item 5. Now, looking at international assistance more in details, the expenditure rate for budget lines 1.1 and 2 reached 56%, with another 6 months remaining in the current biennium. whereas it represented 44% for the entire 22-21 biennium. This increase can be attributed to the increased number of international assistance requests approved, 25 requests against 12 for the same period of the previous biennium, or to the upstream work of the Secretariat and the technical support provided to the state parties to elaborate the requests, or to the increased use of technical assistance by state parties to develop and revise their requests, because 9 state parties received such support of experts against 3 that was the case for the same period of the previous biennium. And lastly, also it could be attributed to actions to promote the objectives of the international assistance mechanisms in general. So let us go forward to the future. Dear members of the committee, I would like my colleague to catch up with the slide. Now talking about the future plan for the implementation of the fund, as summarized in Annex of Document 14. The draft plan that we present to you covers a period of 24 months, 2024-2025, as well as the first 6 months of 2026. The proposed budget for the first 6 months of 2026 corresponds to 1/4 of the total budget approved for the period 24-25. Should the draft plan be endorsed by the committee at the present session, it will be submitted for approval by the next 10th session of the General Assembly in June 24. Allow me to recall that the draft plan shown on the screen is based on an estimated amount available for the next biennium, which is approximately $7 million, in comparison to the budget of the biennium amounted to $8.7 million, while the 10th session of the General Assembly will approve the plan for the use of the ICH fund on the basis of the real amount available as at 31st December this year. As regards the overall budget of the plan, all budget lines are maintained. However, I would like to bring to the attention of the committee that the Secretariat wishes to propose some adjustments, and I will highlight those clearly when I reach the budget lines concerned. So let us first start with the top of the table. In line with the priorities of the fund, it is proposed that the majority of the resources continue to be allocated to international assistance. Here I speak about budget lines 1, 1.1, and 2. And the combined percentage of these 3 lines is 65.1%. Budget line 1 will be assigned once more with the majority of the allocation of the fund, 50%. Budget line 1.1 will be assigned 12.3%. And budget line 2, preparatory assistance, will slightly increase from 2.6 to 2.8%. This increase is proposed in light of the potential additional costs that may be resulting from the extension of the preparatory assistance mechanism to state parties with no national elements inscribed on the representative list that the committee recommended that the General Assembly endorse as discussed under item 10 of the agenda. This line currently covers preparatory assistance to nomination files and the provision of technical assistance to state parties for preparing international assistance requests. So let us go to now budget line 3, other functions of the committee, which will be maintained at 20% of the total budget approved. Funds allocated to this budget line will be specifically dedicated to the capacity building program and the integration of ICH in development plans, policies, and programs, and also to the improvement in the management of knowledge, information, and monitoring of the convention, and awareness raising and outreach. The proposed plan includes a percentage breakdown in terms of expected results in line with the outputs approved in the C5. I wonder if the Barco can catch up with the slide. Therefore, And as shown in the table, the Secretariat proposes to divide budget line 3 into 2 expected results, as shown on the screen, instead of 4 results in the present biennium, to better align the activities with the 2 performance indicators defined in the 41C5 and, of course, to the 42C5. The proposed allocation per expected results will remain unchanged, with the 52% for the new ER1 combining current ERs 2 and 3, and the 40% for the new ER2 combining current ERs 1 and 4. As in preceding plans, the present draft decision proposes that the committee authorizes the Secretariat to make transfers between activities included within the specific proposals for budget line 3, other functions of the committee, up to a cumulative amount equivalent to 5%. So now on to budget lines 4, 5, and 6, covering the participation of experts in intangible cultural heritage representing developing state parties in statutory meetings, are proposed to be slightly decreased to 2.5%, 2.7%, and 2.7% instead of 3.1%, 3.2%, and 3.3% respectively. This would, however, still allow the FAC to respond to all requests from committee members according to our calculation, and most, if not all, requests submitted by state parties not members of the committee and accredited non-governmental organizations. I'm nearly coming towards the end because we are now on to budget line 7, which is also proposed to be slightly decreased from 7.7% to 7% to cover the cost of the advisory services. In addition, in line with the discussion held under item 11, this budget line is foreseen to cover the costs associated with the initial setup of an online platform for sharing good safeguarding experiences to fully implement Article 18 of the Convention. And finally, the present draft decision proposes that the committee continues to authorize the Secretariat to operate transfers between budget lines 4, 5, 6, and 7, and up to 30% of their initial total allocation. The Secretariat would inform the General Assembly and the committee at their respective next session of the exact amount transferred between these budget lines 4, 5, 6, and 7. Thank you, ADG. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Fumiko, and thank you, ADG, for this detailed presentation of the plan for the use of its resources for the next period 2024 to 2025. I open the floor for anyone who wishes to intervene. Brazil, you have the floor.
Gracias, senhor presidente. Me gustaría ahora retomar un punto que fue levantado por la región latinoamericana bajo la discusión de las buenas prácticas respecto a la implementación de la plataforma virtual. Si la Secretaría pudiera elaborar un poco más cómo estaría prevista el desarrollo de esa plataforma con los recursos del fondo y cuáles serían los próximos pasos para el seguimento dessa iniciativa, seria interessante que pudiéramos conhecer um pouco as ideias. E também uma pergunta muito pontual, se as reuniões de categoria 4 estão, de alguma maneira, também auspiciadas por el Fundo del Patrimônio Intangível. Muitas graças, senhor presidente.
Thank you, Brazil. I see no more requests for the floor, so Secretariat, could you respond?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Fumiko will answer the first one. I will answer the second. The category 4 have not been used for the fund to finance it until now. It could change, but until now, no. And Fumiko, can you answer the second one? The first question, please.
Thank you very much. It is about the initial setup of the platform, online moderated platform, in relation to Article 18 that the committee has just discussed under item 11. So the Secretariat idea is to program certain funds under budget line 7 and also 3 ER2. The initial cost of estimated around 300,000 was presented in the working document of 11. Essentially, for the mapping, IT developments, content preparation, initial testing, and establishment of case studies and network that the experts proposed as endorsed by the open working groups. Now I understand that the committee is also happy to go along with it. So I repeat, it is within this fund that has been catering without impacting any other normal operations of the convention. Thank you.
But I believe, je pense qu'il faudrait quand même prendre en considération le débat qui vient de se dérouler pour voir aussi comment on passe d'une... Comment je vous explique? Lorsqu'on a des réunions avec administration et GBS notamment, ils considèrent que ce qui est proposé et que vous avez revu n'est pas vraiment une plateforme, c'est plutôt une page web. C'est comme ça qu'ils l'entendent. Donc je crois qu'à la lumière de du débat qu'il y a eu aujourd'hui, de voir aussi comment les nouvelles technologies ou les plateformes numériques peuvent aider à faire une construction, je crois que cette réflexion, elle doit être aussi aboutie au secrétariat pour vous proposer quelque chose de plus interactif par rapport aux instruments. À l'UNESCO, l'autre jour, j'ai demandé combien de pages web nous avons. On est prêt à 320, de tous les secteurs inclus. Donc vous comprenez que cette rationalisation, elle doit se faire dans la maison, ça n'a aucun sens. Et je crois que cette réflexion, on va la maintenir, on va vous maintenir informé de quelle est la proposition avant d'engager des dépenses sur quelque chose qui doit être après maintenu. Le problème, ce n'est pas de créer des plages ou des plateformes, c'est les maintenir vivantes. Et ça a un coût énorme pour l'organisation. Donc nous allons en discuter à l'interne et vous faire des propositions aussi de comment avancer, si vous êtes d'accord sur ce point, et ne pas le fixer comme une chose qui est déjà 100% établie. Car je crois qu'il y a une réflexion à faire aujourd'hui à partir du débat qu'il y a eu en salle. Voilà, merci Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, ADG. I think we have discussed this issue. And can we now move on to the draft decision? There are no requests for the floor, so can we adopt the draft decision 18-14? Seems like there's no objection, so draft decision 18.14 is hereby adopted. Thank you very much. Can we have the representative of the NGO Forum, please come up to the stage? For his performance.